So, did the Chicago Bears guarantee themselves a spot in the playoffs this year? What in the living hell was the Atlanta Falcons thinking? And what fantasy impact could some of these rookies make this year? We're going to find the answers to that and more other questions as we get you ready for our 2024 NFL Draft recap. Basically, going the highs and lows, the highlights and the lowlights. We got it all covered right here on this week's edition of Fantasy Football Fever, starting right about now. And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football Fever. It is Friday night, May 3rd, 2024. We're in the month of May. We are a little about almost a week after the NFL draft. I'm sure all of you enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching the first round, keeping up with the second, third rounds, and the third day usually not that great. So hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Of course, you know me, Tim McClellan. You know my buddies, John Flynn, host of Hooked on Sports, and of course, you know our league commissioner, John Natale.
Hello.
And we're all decked out in our team apparel today, so we're in good spirits. How you guys doing?
Doing very well.
Doing good.
Very good. So, how'd y'all enjoy the draft? Was all right.
Yeah, pretty intense. Yeah. Some very intense moments.
Yeah, I mean, no kidding.
Yeah, and Daniel, one of our faithful followers here, how you doing? Let's see. I hope you enjoyed the draft yourself. Hope your team did pretty good this year. That's what we're going to be looking at this week. We're going to be taking a look at basically, mostly it's going to be the first round picks that we're going to be taking a look at, seeing where teams went right, where teams went wrong, and maybe fantasy impact for our fantasy football a little later on down the line. So we'll get into all that here pretty soon. We do want to let you know that I think sometime next month, the NFL is going to release the official 2024 schedule.
I think if sometime within this month, probably. They said coming in May, so we're in the month of May now.
Yeah, as I was telling Tim earlier, if the trend continues the same, we're looking at either the second either the second Wednesday or the second Thursday, which is in just a few days. So assuming that's the case, we're on track to have our next show 1 week from tonight, under the assumption that the trend happens.
Well, we will keep our eyes and ears peeled on everything, and we will let you know.
Yeah, last year it came out the second Thursday of May, so if it comes out the second Thursday of May again, that would be the 9th.
It would be the 9th, so we could schedule a show the 10th. So
very possible.
Tentative schedule right there.
See, or we can do it that night, assuming that is the 9th.
The 9th, I believe, is a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see.
Yeah. I wouldn't object to having it on Thursday.
Yeah. But we'll see when exactly it comes out. But
yeah.
Anyway, I think we got a draft to discuss. So I think that's where we're at.
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this NFL draft. Some picks, so like the first few picks, are probably pretty much right off the bat no-brainers. Some of them are interesting. Some of them kind of scratch your head, and of course, we'll get to the WTF pick here a little bit, but
the ultimate elephant in the room.
Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely handle that here. So looking right now, uh, as we all know, last year the Bears traded their number one pick to the Carolina Panthers, who of course they selected Bryce Young, and we kind of know how that went down. So in return, the Bears got the number one pick, and they selected Caleb Williams, the quarterback from USC. So it looks like taking a look here. Where is that? It says looking at the well, let me look at that depth chart for the Bears right now. Looks like he would be right now at QB. Right now, he could be QB1.
So he will be QB1. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
spend the first overall pick on a quarterback only to sit him the first week.
Right.
Yeah. So Caleb Williams, backed up by Tyson Baggett, and Brett Rippon, and Austin Reed, who was another pick they had. But it looks like Caleb Williams is going to start here. But he's got DeAndre Swift, he's got Khalil Herbert, and he's got some wideouts, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and
Romo
Odunze, who of course we'll be talking about here in just a little bit.
As the 9th overall pick in the draft, so we could really see that the big winner here was really the Chicago Bears, because in Caleb Williams you're getting a generational quarterback prospect. You're getting one who has some of the same improvisational abilities as Patrick Mahomes, and of course he's got a big cannon of an arm as well. We saw that at USC, especially during his Heisman season. Now, the big knack for Caleb Williams has been his consistency, because he did have a very bad game about an hour and a half southeast of Chicago last year, when USC lost by 28 points to Notre Dame. So so that's going to be something to but that really wasn't a concern at all, because of the talent and what they have. So now you're going to look at the Chicago Bears really as a team that could be a force in the NFC for years to come, similar to what the Chiefs are right now with Patrick Mahomes. Because if you look at the plan for the Bears was that to wait it out 2 years. Live with Justin Fields, and then surround the team with a lot of talent, both on offense and defense. They had a great salary cap situation. They were able to add dudes on defense. They were able to make some moves for DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, and now Rome Odunze, who right now is a more polished receiver right now than Malik Neighbors. It's on there as well. So you got 3 legit receivers. You have a solid tight end in Cole Kmet. You have DeAndre Swift in the backfield. So this is Chicago Bears offense that can rank in the top half of the NFL in scoring and yardage this year. So you're gonna look at that, and boy, what a fantasy situation Caleb Williams has himself in, because you have 3 super talented receivers, well, who could theoretically at times be a WR1 on some rosters, and then the offensive line, a good tight end. So everything is there for Caleb Williams to be a top 10 quarterback in fantasy this year.
Oh yeah, I was kind of thinking when the moment they picked Williams, and then the moment they picked Odunze, I was thinking that they're probably thinking like a fantasy football person during draft night. They want to kind of stack a good quarterback with a good wide receiver, and I think that's exactly what the Bears did. And they could give Detroit a run for their money this year.
And you also got to think about Green Bay, and I think you might see the most competitive division in the NFL this year. after being pretty weak the last 3 or 4 years. Perhaps the toughest division in the NFL might be the NFC North because you also got to factor in the Minnesota Vikings, who made 2 trade-ups in the draft, and they were able to land J.J. McCarthy, who had from Michigan, and they were able to get Dallas Turner, who was in my view the top defensive player in the draft with pick 17. So Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah had a fantastic draft, and Dallas Turner fits perfectly into Brian Flores' defense, and J.J. McCarthy and Kevin O'Connell. That's oh boy, that's going to be something that they can focus on extending Justin Jefferson. They can focus on getting JJ McCarthy's all the reps he can as QB1 for Minnesota now that Kirk Cousins is out. So big winners, and one of the things I said on Hooked on Sports a couple of weeks ago was that teams that can control the draft, the Minnesota Vikings were absolutely one of those teams because they had the 2 first-round picks, and they didn't have to give they didn't have to give up a second first-round pick to go get J.J. McCarthy, which allowed them to trade up for Dallas Turner. So the Bears had a great night. The Vikings had a great night. I think the Arizona Cardinals I had a great night because they were able to control the draft, and after the quarterbacks Caleb Williams, Jada Daniels, and Drake May went 1, 2, and 3, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. goes in at number 4. So I was surprised the Cardinals stayed, but I thought that was the right move.
All right, yeah. Going to number 2, that was the Washington Commanders, and they took Jaden Daniels from LSU.
Yep.
And they got him pretty much at the number 1 position ahead of Marcus Mariota, Jeff Driscoll, and oh my gosh, Jake from State Farm is still in the league.
Yeah, but I would have taken Drake May over Jaden Daniels. I think that's my thing, but I did like Jaden Daniels a lot because of course he was a Heisman last year, coming on the great season last year with at LSU with Brian Kelly. So I like Jaden Daniels, but I think Drake May has more of an it factor than Jaden Daniels. But either way, I thought all 3 of those teams at the top got their quarterbacks, and as far as the Patriots concerned, there was a couple of trade packages that were offered to them for teams to move up to draft Drake May because the Giants said. Yeah, they had offered the 6th overall pick and next year their first round pick next year to move up for Drake May, and I also think the Vikings had a package ready to trade down. So the Vikings offered their 2 first-round picks, plus their first rounder next year, and then for the number 3 pick and a couple of mid-round selections. But I thought but I thought they were definitely smart in turning down the Giants offer. I mean, the only quarterback the Giants were looking at thinking of drafting was Drake May. So you have that, and then but the question is, will they regret turning down the Vikings package for more picks because I think the Patriots still need dudes defensively, but the bottom line is you have a new coach and a new quarterback coming in the same year, and that's usually a recipe for success.
All right. Drake May, as mentioned, taken by the Patriots. Marvin Harrison Jr., we mentioned him with the Cardinals and the nice power that they had in the first round.
Yeah, but and Marvin Harrison Jr. instantly becomes wide receiver 1 for Kyle Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, and I think I think he had draft comparisons to another Arizona Cardinals legend in Larry Fitzgerald, which
Harold.
which speaks
Oh,
volumes about. Yeah. Um, yeah. So and now the other starting receivers are Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. So you know Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a force in fantasy next year. Because you're thinking about what the Cardinals have with Kyler Murray and his ability to generate a lot of offense. But also the Cardinals have had a lot of success running down the stretch of the season because if you look at how they were able to come back last year against Philadelphia in that wild comeback victory, they were able to run the ball there. So Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. I would not be surprised if Marvin Harrison Jr. is a top 15, top 20 receiver in fantasy this year and would be an instant high end WR2 for fantasy owners. So you could be looking on your fantasy draft nights, and Marvin Harrison Jr. will be off the board by pick 30 within the first 30-35 picks of your fantasy draft. So I think that so but we'll have to see where they put Marvin Harrison Jr. in the rankings, but definitely within the first 3 or 4 picks, he'll be off the board because he's going to get so much attention, so many targets. Now the question is, will he be able to handle the matchups that he'll have to tend with because you have um but which I do think could be favorable matchups for them, because if you look at the Cardinals in a division that has relatively been lacking a little bit on with the secondary, so the current starting corners in fantasy, not in fantasy, in the NFC West. You have Darius Williams, Tre'Davious White from the Rams. You have Charvarius Ward for the 49ers, and then they also the 49ers drafted Renardo Green with their second round pick. And then with Seattle, you have Michael Jackson and Rick Woolen with those picks. So you think Marvin Harrison Jr. has a great opportunity to have get over 1,000 yards this season.
I'm keeping my eye on him, and I'm sure a lot of fantasy owners out there are going to be keeping their eyes on Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. The number 5 pick, Joe Alt, the tackle from Notre Dame, going to the Los Angeles Chargers. Somewhat of an interesting pick there.
I was very surprised that they didn't take Malik Neighbors there because I think the Chargers are because I think they needed a replacement for Keenan Allen and Mike
and Mike Williams. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but listen, the philosophy, one of the reasons they hired Joe Ortiz to be the general manager was that they both have the same attitudes, but when it comes to winning games at the line of scrimmage, and Joe Alt was clearly the best tackle in this year's draft, and everybody knew it for the better part of a year now. So, but I think that pretty much tells you how the Chargers want to win games, and really the Chargers, a lot of the roster totally turned over, obviously from Tom Telesco and the Brandon Staley days. So but however, the Chargers did were able to get a wide receiver with their second round pick, and that would be Lad McConkey, the star wide receiver out of Georgia, and so you can see where the Chargers are on that front. You got Palmer, Johnston, Lad McConkey as well. So So I think the Chargers really addressed their two biggest needs on offense with their first two picks.
Now, would I be correct to say that Lad McConkey would be a relative to the legendary New York Giants player Phil McConkey?
I don't think I don't think he is, but I can definitely uh, I can definitely take a look at that right now.
If I'm
And
not mistaken, I think Phil McConkey was a player for the Giants back in
yeah,
the back in the
yep,
80s.
yep, and he caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. His father Benji McCarthy was a star quarterback in his high school in Georgia when
Oh,
so I don't think there's any relation there.
oh okay. Who's that? Now you said you said you were surprised that the Giants didn't get or that the Chargers got Joe Alt, but Malik Neighbors was available and he fell to you guys. I definitely want to get you guys' reaction to that.
Definitely, I want to hear from the tally on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was when I saw Marvin Harrison was off the board, yeah, I knew the Giants were going to counter with Malik Neighbors. Yeah, they badly needed a wide receiver one because the guys they had previously aren't cutting it. Yeah, Slayton's not the player he once was. Yeah, Jalen Hyatt he's starting to figure things out. Sterling Shepard's going to retire, and yeah, Isaiah Hodgins has been pretty solid, but he can't carry the team by himself. And yeah,
Right.
Wandale Robinson, he slowly has to pick it up a bit. So I think they finally have a legitimate guy.
Yeah. So and I think that receiver that is going to pose problems for another team. The Giants haven't had that since Odell Beckham Jr. left. Now, but now the big question is for the Giants because so there were connections. There were a lot of fans that thought that the Giants were going to draft J.J. McCarthy at number 6. Now. It's going to take a while for us to see whether or not Joe Shea made the right decision, but so, I thought under the circumstances, I think they have to they're planning on getting a roster set to succeed for the next Giants quarterback after Daniel Jones. So it's because it's clear that Daniel Jones is going to be cut from the team at the start of next year, but now that we're on the Giants, I do think the Giants had another solid draft because obviously Neighbors with the first round pick they drafted 2 starters in their secondary that dearly needed some help. I mean, because you would argue the Giants had the worst secondary in the league going into the draft, and they drafted 2 starters. So now you're going to have the young. And think about the youngest player on the Giants starting secondary is Jason Pinnock, who is 24 years old.
Wow.
So sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. You were saying
my only slight issue, maybe being slightly nitpicky. I didn't think drafting a linebacker was necessary because they already have depth in that already.
Yeah, it's about you can't have too many linebackers in this league, but also you need someone who can play in special teams. Because if you remember how special teams changed in the Super Bowl, yeah, and how the 49ers lost that game because of a muffed punt, but it's always important to have somebody in special teams. So that'll be his place to prove himself, and he played a lot of that at UCLA, and he was also part of a very good defense for UCLA last year. But there is one name I want to watch out for, and it's Theo Johnson, the tight end out of Penn State, who
that was one of my favorite picks because we still don't know what the situation is going on with Darren Waller, but he could be retiring, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean Theo Johnson was a monster for his position, and if I could get his his relative athletic score is like something that a lot of general managers and um and and scouts use because hold on. So that's
Mhm.
because it was very interesting looking at that because that Theo Johnson pick the Giants identified him at the scouting combine
Mm.
and so Theo Johnson ran a 4.5740 so he did a 4.19 shuttle, 7.153 cone. Um, let's see, weighs 259 pounds. And his RA score it was 9.93. That ranked not number 9 out of 1,199 tight ends evaluated from 1987 to 2024.
Wow.
So
Oh, wow.
Incredible.
so basically now so you look at Neighbors, Johnson, and the ball hawks in Newbin and Drew Phillips. The Giants became a much more or the Giants are now in the next stage of their rebuild, and we realize that, and they're going to be want to be a more physical team because I think that's where. I think really where the Giants went wrong last year is because they played too finesse and they played too to that. So
Yeah.
but either way, I thought that was the right pick at the right time with Malik Neighbors, which allowed them to set up the rest of what they wanted to do on draft night
Oh yeah.
and throughout the draft.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, J.C. Latham, the tackle from Alabama, went number 7 to the Tennessee Titans.
I mean, everybody knew Tennessee was taking tackle, but I was very surprised it was J.C. Latham. I mean, because if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, I had J.C. Latham going to the Cowboys at 24. So for him to go 17 slots earlier than I thought, I think it's very I think it's it feels like a reach to me.
Mm-hmm. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we give you what I mentioned earlier. This is the WTF pick of the first round. Number 8, the Atlanta Falcons drafted quarterback Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. And when I saw this, I was like, hold on a second. Let's pump the brakes here. They just got Kirk Cousins, who is a proven veteran, but he's recovering from an injury, though.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really have that much success in playoffs. Somebody help me out on this.
Yeah. I don't know what to say either. And unless the Falcons are trying to tell us something, but who knows?
And they've been trying to tell us something ever since they were suffering the biggest upset in Cowboy in Super Bowl the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. The victims of that, they ain't done nothing since.
Yeah.
And I guess desperation, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think basically what it or the only thing I could say was that the Falcons had a strong roster at everywhere except the quarterback last year, and like the quarterback loss, the quarterback play was the reason the Falcons did not make the playoffs, and the Falcons lost like 4 or 5 games last year solely because of bad quarterback play, but. So, but this makes no sense. And also, Michael Penix Jr. is going to be 29 years old when his 5th-year option comes up in 2028. He's going to be 29 years old in 2029.
29 and 29.
Think about that for a second. The Atlanta Falcons just gave Kirk Cousins a 4-year, $180 million contract, and everything was there for the Falcons to select the best defensive player in the draft, or to draft Roma Dunze at number 8. So, but I gotta tell, but this is what dysfunctional organizations do. Because Arthur Blank has no feel, no clue, and no idea what's going on. He desperately wants to win a Super Bowl before he dies, and his own ambitions are really what's going on with his team. And Terry Fontenot was seen after they submitted the draft card that kept explaining himself over and over again to Arthur Blank. So that tells you that there was a lot of miscommunication in that draft room. And not only that, the rest of the draft wasn't that great either. They reached on defensive tackle at 35 when someone else excellent was there too. So it made no sense from an Atlanta Falcons perspective.
Oh, got me on that one. Hey, we got my friend Brandy.
Brandy.
How you doing?
Hello.
She's got her unboxings and more channel, so look her up. She's just got these videos that she does every now and then. Find them enjoyable. I mean, but she's a good friend of mine. Great to see you again. So with that being said, we'll just go on to the Jets pick. Jets went offense here to go to Olu Fashanu.
A tackle out of Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, so now the Jets have had a great offseason that they were able to completely overhaul the one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL last year. The Jets were able to get a stud wide able to get a wide receiver, a wide receiver as well. So really, if you look at this, if you look at this Jets offense, it looks like one that's really one that's raring to go. So I'm gonna get the Jets draft depth chart up there on offense. And now you can see Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Malachi Corey. So who the Jets were able to select with number 3 or with their 3rd round pick. He was a wide receiver. Oh my God. Where am I? Malachi Corey from Western Kentucky with their 3rd round pick. I'm bringing in John Simpson, Tyron Smith, Moses Morgan, and then they have more insurance with Fashanu at 11. So, and more importantly, with Jets news that Aaron Rodgers is cleared for OTAs, which begin in a couple of weeks, and he will not have any restrictions whatsoever come OTAs, which begin for the Jets on May 20th. So that's a very big sign for the Jets when it comes to that. So Aaron Rodgers could be in for a big season now that he has a good offense around him.
Not only good offense, but a clean bill of health at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and an offensive line that'll actually protect them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, looks like things will be working better over in New York. We mentioned Bo Nix going to the Broncos with the number 12 pick, and I like it a lot.
So it is very curious about the Broncos drafting Bo Nix but in my view, Bo Nix was the 5th best quarterback in the draft, but But I think the thing you need people need to realize with this is because when it comes to coaching comes to drafting guys, you got to develop them, and a guy like Sean Payton being in the room to coach him up, and basically as Sean Payton gloating at Bo Nix because there was a point a couple that the Saints wanted to trade up and draft Patrick Mahomes 2017, and Bo Nix was Sean Payton's highest graded quarterback since then. So that tells you something about of how the Denver Broncos feel about where they stand.
Yeah, so it's right now Bo Nix right now at QB1 ahead of Zach Wilson, who was traded to who's going to the Broncos from the Jets. Still got they got Jared Stidham from the Vegas Raiders, and they got the former Cowboy Ben DiNucci. So that's the depth chart right there. So
Yeah, and I think what's crazy. I think but I think another thing that needs to be noted was how Denver approached the defense because I had the Broncos drafting corner at 12 instead of the quarterback. This leads me to believe that the Broncos are going to be all in on Pat Surtain coming up, whether it's an extension or something like that. But I do not think the Broncos are going to be trading Surtain because I think he's too good of a player for that to happen. Another thing about the Broncos draft, which I really liked, was that they drafted Audric Estime, who I raved about on the podcast last week with their 5th round pick, and I think and this is where I think this makes a lot of sense for the Broncos, and Audric Estime might be somebody that you might want to be on the lookout for when it comes to the end of the season, because if you I'll be pulling up the Broncos cap hit numbers very shortly. Yeah, so, but I think what I really liked about this one, yeah, is that the Broncos are now have to have Samaje Perine and Javonte Williams both as free agents at the end of the season. So now you got to look at Audric Estime, who I loved out of Notre Dame, and I think he could very well be the answer toward the end of the season. And it's, if the Broncos start the season the way I think they're going to start, I think it's not going to be that great because I don't believe in this roster. Then that's Perine and Williams are going to be names that teams with running back needs are going to want in trade deadline conversations, and then that'll allow someone like Estime to get some time to show himself, to prove himself
oh yeah.
to the by the Denver Broncos at
So interesting numbers I see over here
at number 5 with their 5th round pick.
Right. Guess this system crashed again, but that's technology for you people. Gotta love technology sometimes. I mean, sometimes he'll smile at you, then he'll kind of backslap you, you know.
Yep.
I was just about to go on to the 13th pick, which was Las Vegas Raiders. They selected tight end Brock Bowers from Georgia.
Oh yeah, I like that fit for him, but I was expecting him to go to the Jets because I don't really trust Tyler Conklin as our tight end. He hasn't been particularly good lately,
Right.
so I think that's a steal for the Raiders.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me see that. I was looking at the same page that Flynn had there, looking at the depth charts here.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at your tight end, Darren Waller. Yeah, he said he might retire. Daniel Bellinger. Then they drafted Theo Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
They have like a 2. They got 1, 2, 3, 4 on the backups there. Oh, God. Oh, there he is.
Here I am.
Flynn, I guess Flynn had a little hiccup.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. We were just about to mention the Las Vegas Raiders at number 13 taking tight end Brock Bowers from Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of dig this for the Raiders. I'm stunned they didn't draft a quarterback, but a lot of it was thanks to the Falcons' buffoonery. If Michael Penix Jr. was there at 13, that would have been the Raiders' pick. But I do dig what they did because they went with best available player because when you're trying to build teams and when you have a position of dire need that's not available for the value, you just take the best guy available. And that's what Brock Bowers was. So I give him credit. Now the thing in terms of a fantasy impact is what is he going to be? What is he going to be like with another tight end who the Raiders drafted early in the draft last year in
Was that
in Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame?
Yeah. Yeah, Michael Mayer, yeah. Yeah, it looks like yeah, and of course is for those of you who may have forgotten, Minshew Mania is gonna run wild in Las Vegas, as our good friend Alex Pizzle would say. Alex Putnam talking about Minshew Mania right there. So I kind of interesting, I can see it both sides of this. New Orleans Saints, number 14, taking tackle Talise Fuaga.
Yep. Out of Oregon State with the 14th overall pick, because I think the Saints had injury questions with Ryan Vanchek, so he's going to be the plug and play guy at right tackle for the New Orleans Saints in 2024.
Yeah, not much to say there. At 15, Indianapolis Colts, they take an edge rusher by the name of Laiatu Latu from UCLA. Latu.
Yeah.
That name sounds about as interesting as Puka Nakua.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Flynn froze again. I guess if let me see the it's going to be Indianapolis Jeff chart here. No, he's got him as starting defensive end for that team right there. Lineup signed Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, and Samson Ebukam. So of course they still got Anthony Richardson at quarterback with Joe Flacco on the backup. And I see the Colts still have my boy Sam Ellinger at third string quarterback. Sam Ellinger from Texas. So the edge rusher Flynn from UCLA. Your thoughts?
I thought that was a very interesting pick at 15. I mean, he was the first defensive player taken in the draft, because the first 14 picks were all offensive players, because you had 4 tackles, you had 6 quarterbacks, 3 receivers, and a tight end. And now you go, and now the Colts are able to draft the best available player on defense at 15, and even though that was not the one I would have seen going. I mean, he was the number 3 edge rusher on my board, but the Colts still got it as someone who goes after the quarterback, because in a division where you have to attend with C.J. Stroud and Trevor Lawrence, you need someone to rush the quarterback. So that's what the Colts did with 15. Yeah. Yeah, but also, and I also want to touch on other other things the Colts were able to do, because I thought the Colts had an A draft. And yeah, because after getting the pass rusher at 15, they got to draft A.D. Mitchell from Texas with pick 52. They beefed up the depth of their offensive line by taking Matt Gonsalves with their 3rd round pick out of Pitt, and is also from went to high school in West Hampton out on Long Island. So that was good to see. So so A.D. Mitchell, he's slotted in as WR2, but I do think Mitchell's is going to be someone that might interest teams later on fantasy draft night. As the 2nd ranked wide receiver on his team, so I could see him being a flex option in some bigger leagues, like 12, 14 team leagues. So that's going to be a fantasy name to monitor there.
Hey, yeah, looks like he could fit into that system over in Indianapolis. With pick number 16, Seattle Seahawks took a defensive tackle named Byron Murphy II from Texas. And it looks like, according to this depth chart here, he may fit in just nicely at the defensive tackle position.
The Seahawks desperately needed someone that can pressure the quarterback, and that's what Byron Murphy can do.
Not much else to say on that one, but that is definitely a need that those Seahawks needed. We had a number 17, the Vikings. We mentioned Dallas Turner from Alabama. He was traded. They traded up in the draft from Jacksonville to take care of an edge rusher, Dallas Turner. We mentioned him along with them getting J.J. McCarthy. So once again, keep your eyes on those Vikings too. Number 18, Amarius Mims, taken by the Cincinnati Bengals, an offensive tackle from Georgia. So maybe a little bit more protection for Joe Burrow.
Yep, 6'8", 340 pounds. He can play tackle. He can also play he can also play the guard position as well. So the Cincinnati Bengals, who had a really who would have won the Super Bowl 2 years ago now with that competent offensive line. Now that they have completely remade the offensive line, and it could be one of the best in the National Football League this season, which is very good news if you're an injury-prone quarterback like Joe Burrow. So the Bengals are going to be in the Super Bowl conversation in the AFC once again this upcoming season.
Number 19, Los Angeles Rams. They got themselves maybe a diamond ring because they went to Jared Verse, that is, an edge rusher from Florida State.
So yeah, I love what the Rams did with the draft here, because you basically needed guys that can replace that can replace the retired look great Aaron Donald, and he's going to be exceptionally difficult to replace. So, but given how aggressive the Rams were, this offseason with adding new with adding new guys, especially on defense, I think getting a couple starters in your front seven is always a great route to go in. So they got Jared Verse, and they also got his Florida State teammate. Braden Fisk, and that defense was incredible all year. And Jared Verse was a name that I was really interested in to watch the season last season because people touted him as the best defensive player in the draft. I mean, I had Jared Verse going as high as number 9 on my board, but but still, nonetheless, that was a great draft by the Rams. In terms of a fantasy perspective, I think the big curiosity is the Blake Corum pick because the Rams took Blake Corum out of Michigan with their 3rd round pick. So how much is Blake Corum going to eat into Kyren Williams' workload? So really, you got to see how the Rams are going to approach that. But you can't go wrong with having multiple running backs under team-friendly contracts, which will really help in terms of how they want to win games in the fourth quarter of games, especially if it's if it's a situation like against San Francisco or against Seattle or I don't know, a game against the Lions where the Lions run the ball a lot. So can the Rams beat them at their own game? We'll have to see. But
so they plugged him in for a left outside linebacker here on the depth chart. So yeah, I could definitely see that going here. The Pittsburgh Steelers got a tackle. Troy Faltino from Washington, offensive guard. I guess I'll see him here, offensive guard, but have they switched him?
Yeah, he can also play left tackle too. So he was listed as a tackle. But yeah, so he has that flexibility. So the Steelers are able to draft Troy Faltino, well, their 1st round pick as tackle from Washington, and then with their 2nd round pick, Zach Frazier was the pick, the center out of West Virginia with their 2nd round pick. So you figure now with what the Steelers were able to do, they completely transformed the offensive line within the last couple of years. But now the question is going to be about Najee Harris running the ball because the Steelers declined his 5th-year option this week. So Najee Harris is going to be a free agent after the season. So what's that situation going to be like? But if Najee Harris is playing under this offensive line, and again, we'll have to see about if and when the Steelers move bench Russell Wilson and start Justin Fields. But Najee Harris early on might use that motivation to have a big season. So Najee Harris is probably a name that might be underrated going into fantasy drafts this season. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. Probably one of the coolest names in the draft. At least one of the coolest names in this 1st round. Edge rusher taken by the Miami Dolphins at the number 21 position. Edge rusher from Penn State, Chop Robinson.
Yeah.
This was Alex made a video on that. His reaction, that was fun.
Yeah, and it appeared on TBS's YouTube channel today, which has over 1 million, or nearly 2 million subscribers.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. And his real name is Demiune Robinson. 21 years old. He transferred from Maryland to Penn State at the onset of the 2022 season.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's see
yeah,
here.
and the story about his nickname, Robinson was named Pork Chop because he weighed 14 pounds at birth.
Yep.
Wow.
His name was later shortened to Chop Robinson. But I would have liked the Dolphins to beef up that offensive line. That they only used one pick. On the offensive line, and that was
Right.
that was Patrick Paul, the a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
It's the tackle from Houston with their second round pick. Some people had going earlier in the second round, so we'll see if that's able to pan out. But there was also a big happening in Miami today.
Hmm?
Tim?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Miami, it looks like Odell Beckham Jr. has decided to sign a contract with the Dolphins. And it looks like, where is that report that I saw? I haven't actually seen it
I
yet, but according to Bleacher
1
Report,
year age. Yeah.
according to Bleacher Report, uh, it looks like the cheetah is not very happy about this. So, what was the terms of the contract you were mentioning?
I believe it was 1 year, 8.25 million. I believe.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I guess maybe Tyreek Hill is afraid that he might uh, take away some targets or anything. But I mean, still look at that. I mean, you still look at that. I mean, you got Jalen Waddle, Odell Beckham Jr., Tyreek Hill. I mean, that is a triple threat of receivers right there.
I see. But I don't think this makes any sense because of having Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That you could have used that money to go elsewhere because yeah, I was a little confused with Miami's off season, the season, but I think the Dolphins. Let's be real here. They're the third best team in their own division, and yeah, you typically need to be one of the top two to make the playoffs. So I was a little disappointed with Miami this offseason. I don't know if they're a playoff team this year. I'm a little concerned with their defense.
Yeah. So you're saying right now Buffalo's not really much of a contender anymore.
So, I mean, I still have Buffalo ahead of Miami, but I have the Jets ahead of Buffalo.
Ah, interesting.
Yes,
Now this,
I don't think
yeah.
Miami's defense. I don't think Miami's defense is great enough right now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Speaking of defense, a number 22, Quinion Mitchell, quarterback from Toledo, was taken by those Philadelphia Eagles, and according to Cowboys defensive Michael Parsons, he was kind of unhappy about that. But I'm sure everyone over in Philadelphia is happy about that.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles seriously needed seriously needed help at the cornerback position because their very poor secondary was the reason was the thing that sparked the late season collapse. So, but now you have two starters in your secondary and with Quinion Mitchell with their first round pick, and then Cooper DeJean there was their second round pick coming out of Iowa. So who I always thought for sure was going to go in the first round, but but now the Eagles secondary is rebuilt, and now I can see the Eagles defense / special teams going back to being one of the best in the National Football League and maybe be a top 15 defense / special teams in fantasy this upcoming season.
Okay. Oh, I kind of missed one timing right here. Dashy, our friend Dashy's watching us. Says I was not angry when the Bengals drafted Amari Mims. Tips I have to Zach Taylor and Duke Tobin for at least coming up with a backup plan. Amari Mims is best at right tackle. I guess we kind of agreed on that.
Yep.
LC, a friend, Lucas, our Steeler fan. Happy Friday.
Lucas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Steelers had a good draft. I think Omar Khan had a solid draft. But anyway,
moving right along here. We had a trade. According to us, it was a trade from Cleveland through Houston and Minnesota. And when all that was said and done, Jacksonville Jaguars selected wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU.
Yeah, they needed a replacement for Calvin Ridley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So that's going to temporarily boost Trevor Lawrence for a little bit, but now you have Christian Kirk, Jay Davis, and Brian Thomas Jr. and Brian Thomas Jr. was clearly and I do agree with the analysis on this that outside of the big three, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr. was wide receiver number 4 in this draft, and I think that's an excellent pick for Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely that Brian. Yeah, with Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk. Yeah, that could be a pretty good trio of receivers down in Central Florida right there.
Yeah. So, and then for the rest of the draft, the Jaguars, 6 of their last 7 picks that they used on defense, as well. And I'll go back to the defense depth chart for Jacksonville. So yeah, I mean, because they drafted the Jaguars drafted Mason Smith, defensive tackle from LSU, with their 2nd round pick, and then and then Jerry and Jones out of Florida State with their 3rd round pick. Javen Foster from Missouri, Jordan Jefferson from LSU, DeAndre Pierce from Ole Miss, and Killian Robinson from Texas. Yeah, with the 5th round pick themselves. So I thought it was not a bad showing for Jacksonville.
Not bad. Tip of the hat to them right here. Then at 24, well, you can imagine we were excited to get our first pick in the draft. But then, like Jerry Jones used to do a few years ago, almost every year, he decided to trade down. So gave this pick to Detroit. And so the Lions selected corner Terrion Arnold from Alabama.
Yeah, I loved that Terrion Arnold pick. It's because the Lions could have gone one of 2 ways with their 1st round pick: draft the best available defensive back, because the Lions gave up an average over 400 yards of defense on average during their 3 playoff games last year. So they needed someone to get that out of the way, and I thought the Lions cleaned up a little bit on defense as well. So the Lions also drafted Ennis Rackstraw Jr. out of Missouri to compete for a starting spot. They also traded for Carlton Davis as well. So I thought the Lions had a good offseason, and now the Lions are going to be a name you obviously need to watch out for to be in the Super Bowl conversation coming up this upcoming season. So Could be another big year for the Lions.
Well, staying in that division at number 25, the Green Bay Packers selected offensive tackle Jordan Morgan from Arizona.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a reach to me, but the Packers have done very well with their draft picks, and they know how to draft and develop, and that's why they're always a playoff contender year in and year out.
All right, so get that here. Number 26, Tampa Bay comes in and selects Graham Barton, center from Duke. Now, that was the one that I was kind of hoping the Cowboys would take at number 24 because the Cowboys really do need a center, but I guess the Buccaneers do as well.
Yeah, I was thinking Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon was the pick because I had him ranked a little bit ahead of Graham Barton, but I think Baker Mayfield is a winner, is a fantasy winner because they were able to replace the retired center, so now they're able to have that under control for the upcoming season. A guy who that the Buccaneers just gave $100 million to now has more protection in front of him.
Right. Now at number 27, a trade from Houston. So the Cardinals, I think we mentioned this guy here, the edge rusher Darius Robinson from Mizzou.
Yep.
Yeah, I mentioned him earlier, and the great draft that the Cardinals had, at least definitely in this first round. A trade from the Buffalo Bills got the Chiefs to get into the number 28 position. And they got wide receiver Xavier Worthy from Texas.
Bill's Twitter went berserk on draft night because it wasn't just that they traded down, and I mean Xavier Worthy was obviously the pick, easy first guess. I mean, it's like he would have been perfect for Josh Allen, but they traded it to the Chiefs, their arch nemesis in the AFC. And allowed the Chiefs to take Xavier, the fastest wide receiver in the fastest player period in scouting combine history, and basically now Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes can turn him into the next Tyreek Hill. So that was very curious from a Bills perspective. But now you got the Chiefs, so who maybe had the worst wide receiver room last year, and they still won the Super Bowl. And they still still able to win the Super Bowl, and they got better at the wide receiver position. So that was mind-boggling of how the Bills navigated night one of the draft.
Yeah, of course, you have to remember last year the Chiefs receiving core was not that good. They led the league in drop passes with 25. So, and besides, I think they needed someone to replace Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah,
who I believe
and they also got Hollywood Brown too in free agency. So now you have Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice as your three wide receivers, and two of them weren't on a Super Bowl winning team last year. Oh boy, good luck. And also the Chiefs extended Travis Kelce for 2025, and you have that. And what's crazy that the last time the Chiefs traded up in the draft was in 2017, when they traded up the draft for Patrick Mahomes. And which team did the Chiefs trade up with that night? The Buffalo Bills.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, think about the crazy things in Bill with the Bills franchise history that unfolded in the last 4 months. A missed field goal wide to the right in a playoff game, which the Bills fans knew all too well from 30 years ago when they lost on Scott Norwood's a game-winning field goal attempt that went wide right to the Giants.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes beating the Bills in the playoffs, that they knew that all too well. They had 3 times in the last 4 years, and then the Bills trading down, allowing the Chiefs to select a potential Hall of Fame talent. So the perfect song to so that basically describes the Bills fan base is All Too Well by Taylor Swift, which is like basically the anthem for all the Swifties, and sure enough, on April 29th, which is one of the hallmark days in the Swiftie calendar, Travis Kelce gets his 2-year extension, making him the highest paid tight end in football. So it's still crazy how the Taylor is still dominating some of the headlines in the NFL pop culture cross references.
Well, I guess that's just the power of America's musical sweetheart. But oh well, after that, we go down to the 29th position, which was taken by Detroit, but Detroit traded with the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, let's see what your reaction is.
I actually did like this because we needed an offensive lineman. We got an offensive tackle, Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. I really like this pick. I think, according to our friend Adam Oliver earlier today, he said that they could transition him to center, which is definitely what the Cowboys do need, since they lost their starting center, Tyler Biadasz, to free agency this year. So you'll line him up along with Tyler Smith, Brock Hoffman, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele. And Zach Martin, of course, I've said time and time again, greatest offensive lineman the Cowboys have had since Larry Allen. So, going back to the sixth, they did draft a center in the 3rd round by being Cooper Beebe from. Wait a minute, I got my Cowboys draft list right here. I had one. I hear Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. He was taken.
I was stunned he lasted that long.
I was kind of surprised about that too. But we do need a center. We did draft a wide receiver in the 6th round. That was Ryan Flournoy from Southeast Missouri State. So didn't really too much here. On the defensive side, drafted a defensive end, Marshawn Neyland from Western Michigan. Didn't really see much action until 3rd round here. Let's see some offensive players that got here. Nathan Thomas from Louisiana, left tackle. So they'll put Tyler Guyton right in there where Tyron Smith's spot. Now that Tyron Smith is gone, so yeah, I like this this pick that Tyler Guyton. I think he might fit into the offensive line on the Cowboys just fine. So and let's see here, number 30. Number 30 came the Baltimore Ravens, and they decided to take up Nate Wiggins, corner from Clemson.
Another guy who I was stunned, so that fell in Eric DeCosta's lap at 30.
Of course, they've had a pretty good defense for a while now. Last 2 picks are both wide receivers. 31 pick, Ricky Pearsall from Florida, taken by the 49ers, which I think should
so basically So basically, yeah. But basically, the question came down to is were the contract situations for Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel. So like a lot of questions were that would the 49ers trade Ayuk and Debo because they wouldn't be able to extend both of them. So they drafted they used their 31st pick on a wide receiver who some people had a third round draft grade on, but also remember that Shanahan is a little different with his offense than most others. So Ricky Pearsall is going to be probably going to be a starting wide receiver. So now the question is going to be trading. Are they going to trade Ayuk or Debo or both? But I vehemently disagreed with that because I think they had another chance to do something about it. But we'll see how they handle this.
That's right. And taking the final pick, number 32 in the draft, pick traded from KC through Buffalo. Uh, Xavier Legette, wide receiver from South Carolina.
Yep. So basically, the Panthers added Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson, and Xavier Legette or in the same offseason. So a completely different wide receiving core for Bryce Young. So which I think all I believe are better than what they previously had. So that was a really good job by the Panthers adjusting that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
But why don't we also look at the other teams that did not draft a receiver that did not have a first round pick. So the 33rd pick was the Bills because the Panthers wanted to trade back into the first round so they can get the 5th-year option on Xavier Legette.
right.
But the Bills drafted Keon Coleman, and I think this guy is going to be a name you really want to watch in fantasy because he might be the number one receiver for Josh Allen. So that means you could look at maybe him being a top 25 wide receiver this upcoming season. For Buffalo, I think he could be someone that's really going to be interesting. So I do think Keon Coleman is a big winner in fantasy. I also think Josh Allen is a win. I think his fantasy outlook is a little bit better now than it was pre-draft with the addition of Keon Coleman. The Houston Texans did not make a selection in the first round because they used their first round pick this year to trade last season for the rights to Defensive Rookie of the Year Will Anderson, which I thought was a great trade at the time for both teams. So the Texans' first pick was is probably going to be their starting right tackle by the name of Blake Fisher, who the Texans selected out. Whom the Texans selected out of Notre Dame on defense, and then on offense, and then on defense that they selected Kamari Lessiter. With pick 42 out of Georgia, the starting corner there. So I think that made a lot of sense for the Houston Texans. And then I believe then the Cleveland Browns were the last team that we haven't discussed their picks yet. And then they went defense with pick number 2, and then they drafted supplemental pieces for the rest of their draft. So,
So very interesting there. Let's see what happens with those Cleveland Browns coming this season.
Yep. So I think our last main topic is. But basically, who are the big winners and losers in fantasy from the NFL draft?
Yeah, well, we definitely know who the biggest loser is. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would probably have to be Atlanta.
Yep.
But I'd say one of the big winners. Well, actually, I'd say two in the same division. I'd have to say the Bears and the Vikings.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I
And,
was
and
going to say.
if I had to pick a third, if I had to pick a third team, I'd go Arizona.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other team I had in mind was the Eagles. I also think I could say the Giants are winners too.
See, I think the Giants had a better draft than people give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I think the Giants are much are I because think now and really a winner for when it comes to the 2024 season, assuming he's the starting quarterback, is Daniel Jones, because now Daniel Jones has a legit number one wide receiver, which he didn't have previously. That
Right.
And also we could be seeing some of Theo Johnson maybe making an impact later this season, especially if Darren Waller deems himself unavailable.
Right.
Right.
Um, I think Kyler Murray is a big winner because now he has a legit number one wide receiver. I think they can upgrade over Hollywood Brown, so I think he could be in for a good season. Also, the Arizona Cardinals selected Trey Benson with their third round pick. So this running back from Florida State with their third round pick. So I do think James Conner, in a way, is a fantasy loser. I think his fantasy stock went down as a result of that pick.
Yeah,
True. Yeah.
I would tend to agree with that. I would, but so I don't really think of another loser other than Arizona. But I guess my three winners would be Chicago, Minnesota, and Chicago, Minnesota, Arizona, probably in that order.
Hmm.
Because I think Chicago may have found themselves the one quarterback that they've needed for quite some time. And not only that,
Yeah.
but a very good wide receiver from college who could fit into the system just fine. So, like I said, when I saw the Bears stack that wide receiver with that quarterback in the draft, I was like, "Holy cow! I think we could be looking at the future of the Bears, and it could be looking pretty good."
Hmm.
Yeah, and also I think about what teams didn't do in the draft, because Pro Football Focus had the Browns, the Cowboys, the Raiders, and the Chargers all teams the four teams most in need of a running back, and the Browns didn't draft one, the Chargers did not draft. They did not draft a running back, so I think for the Chargers, when you're looking at Gus Edwards and Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins going over with Joe Ortiz to the Chargers. I think that's where I think that's where it's going to be those. So it's going to be one way or the other. I think Zeke Elliott, who the Cowboys signed earlier this week, I think he is a winner in fantasy because the Cowboys did not draft a running back, so he might very well be RB1. It could also be Regal Dowdles, but so I think Zeke Elliott is a winner. But I do think a big winner that nobody's really been talking about is Nick Chubb. So that's because if Nick Chubb is able to fully recover from ACL surgery, he's going to be getting 25, 20 to 30 touches a game down the stretch of the season, which he might be a really big factor come fantasy playoffs. So
It could come back. I mean, I do I do tip my hat to Jerome Ford for stepping in for him when he was down here. But Nick Chubb coming back, that would be definite a good another good shot in the arm for Cleveland's offense. I agree with that. Well, anyway, it is. I think I know I've got a trivia question.
Yeah. Yeah, I found something while doing some research. I got one. It's draft related, borderline
Yeah,
draft related, but it
mine
is.
is too.
All right, so go ahead, Tim. You can start with yours then.
Okay. Where's
I think
my?
Flynn might be frozen again. Oh, there. Oh, never mind. He moved.
Yep. Yeah, he's still with us there. All right. Looks at my notes here. All right.
Yeah.
So this may be an easy.
Yeah, go on.
I was going to
Easy
say this
trivia
may be
question
an
tonight.
easy trivia question. It may be. So the question is, who was the last number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft that was drafted by the Cowboys?
The last number 1 overall draft pick that was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys.
I got that one.
I don't know. I feel like it's one of the players from the '90s, but it sounds too obvious. Thinking, could it be Troy Aikman? Could it be Emmitt Smith? Could it be Michael Irving? I feel like it's one of those '90s players.
It's not, but I think in '89 it was in '89 the Cowboys went 1-15 the first year under Jimmy Johnson. But we also remember that year the Cowboys traded Herschel Walker for all those picks that set up a dynasty. So
Right.
so the question I have is, was Emmitt Smith part? What did they use Emmitt Smith from one of the picks they got back, or did they pick someone else? I think that's
Mhm.
that's the tough one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wait in and guess Emmitt Smith.
Okay,
Yeah.
Theo, you say?
Yeah, I mean this one's actually a lot tougher than we thought it would be. But I don't feel like Emmitt Smith was the number 1 overall pick that year in 1990.
I think he may have been. No, he wasn't. I mean,
Ah,
because
sorry.
the Cowboys, I don't think they finished last that year, even though they didn't make the playoffs in '90.
That's so,
But they
but I'm thinking, but '89, the first year under Jimmy Johnson,
right.
they won 1-15, so they had the worst record in football and had. Uh, did the Cowboys trade the number 1 overall pick in '90 for something else?
I don't believe they did. Wish I could find a
Because I know Irvin was drafted in '88.
right.
That I know, so it's not him.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just give it to you right here. You probably forgot about 1991.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got me.
that would be Russell, Maryland.
Never heard of him. I never would have gotten it.
Never heard of him either.
Russell, Maryland. He was an offensive. I think it was an offensive lineman from the University of Miami.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's how so Jimmy Johnson probably recruited him from high school in the late '80s.
yeah, maybe. Probably
Mhm.
one of his old guys. So yeah, so that was my question.
Alrighty, here comes mine, I guess. All right, mine. We're just simply looking for a team. So you guys have a 1 in 32 shot at this.
Oh, how nice!
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. This was just something I was just curious about. I was just looking it up. All right, we know the whole Mr. Irrelevant vibe here, but got 132 shot here. Which team has had the most Mr. Irrelevant picks?
oh gosh.
Whoa.
Yeah, I had to count the teams here. I found it on a certain page here. I just had to count everything.
It's
So you guys got a 1 in 32 shot. Well, I'm gonna help you guys out. I'm gonna narrow it down by 50% for you. I'm gonna let you guys know it's a team in the NFC. So now I'm being generous here. Now you guys have a 1 in 16 shot.
Okay, so it's the NFC.
The 49ers.
Okay, Flynn's gonna guess the 49ers.
Yeah, and also for those of you out there that are wondering who Mr. Irrelevant was, it was the Jets that selected Jalen Key with a 257th and final pick.
Yes. All right, so yeah, Flynn's going with the 49ers. What do you pick? What do you say, Tim?
49ers, that's an interesting pick, but you want to talk about let's see, I don't know. The first team that came to my mind was the Commanders.
All right, well, also known as the Redskins. So let's find that out. All right, Flynn gets the 49ers. They had the Mr. Irrelevant pick 4 times. Let's see what the Redskins have. Redskins have had 3. But the team with the most, and believe it or not, it's the team that Flynn and I root for, the New York Giants.
Really?
New York Football Giants.
The Giants have had the Mr. Irrelevant pick 9 times. 1936 was their first one when they selected somebody named Phil Flanagan. And then 1939, Jack Rhodes. 1940, Myron Claxton. 1947, Don Clayton. 1957, Don Guest. 1960, Bill Gorman. 1983, John Tugel. 1991, Larry Wank. And then a player we definitely both remember, 2020, Tay Crowder.
Yep, and in Joe Judge's first win as a coach, he had the game-winning fumble recovery for a touchdown. It was a Week 6 game against Washington.
Yeah, and several teams have had 5. The second most is the Raiders. The Raiders have had 7.
Raiders. Wow.
It took me a little bit of counting. I had to count the teams. I couldn't find like an article directly. I had to count everything by hand.
Oh my gosh, that must have taken you some time.
Well, no, not particularly. I mean, because I found this on Wikipedia. I just sorted by team, and I just counted down the line.
Oh, I got you.
But here, let me see if I could flip my screen here a little bit. That's where I got it. That's a Wikipedia page. I just organized it by team. Here, let's see how many your Dallas Cowboys have had.
Also,
yeah. Tim's Dallas Cowboys have had Mr. Irrelevant pick twice. 9. I think one of them was from before you were even born, so I'm not even sure if you would have heard of this guy. 1972, Alfonso Cain.
No.
And this one, you probably haven't heard of him either, because I think you were only 4 at the time. Lee Washburn.
Lee Washburn, no.
Yeah.
Can't say that I recognize that name.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Well, because both those picks, you were either a young kid or it was before you were born.
Yeah. You said the first one was 72?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be 2 years before I was born. So
yeah, the other one, you were only 4. It was Lee Washburn.
Yeah. So
that was 78?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So the New York Football Giants with more Mr. Irrelevance.
Yep, they had 9. I was shocked. I had no idea.
9 of them. Wow.
That was just a question I just threw at the last second. Man, I completely forgot about it.
That question was so good. I think Sneaky Hembo would be proud of you for that.
Yeah.
That's for those of you who are fans of that TV show Get Up on ESPN.
Mm.
So, oh well, anything that we missed tonight? I mean, it was a pretty good first round. Some winners and losers.
Yeah, as far as I know,
And
I think we covered everything.
Didn't see if Flynn released his latest edition of Hooked on Sports yet.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, but also some of the running backs that went off the board. Jonathan Brooks went to the Panthers at number 46. Yeah, so that was when we talked about Trey Benson to the Cardinals.
Okay.
So I discussed Estime, who I thought was like the 10th or 11th running back selected in the draft. Let me pull up some of the others who went. Yeah, but Jonathan Brooks was actually the first one taken. Trey Benson and Blake Corum were the first three running backs taken, all within the first 83 picks. But Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went to Tampa with their fourth round pick, and we'll have to see about the Bucks running back situation, and we'll have to see what's going on with Rashad White for all of that. So that could be a name to watch down the stretch of the season.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely, because first few picks out, the first handful, of course, quarterbacks. Of course, it was pretty much a wide receiver strong part of maybe the first top 16 picks in the draft, or at least in the first round anyway. Yeah, well, we're just I know there's gonna be some guys that I'll be keeping my eye on, including the players for my teams. I was reading somewhere on NFL.com that they actually take the Cowboys draft picks an A minus, which is a little bit higher from what I would have said. I would have said it was a B plus, B or B plus.
Yeah.
So what would you guys give for your Giants?
Yeah, A minus.
Yeah, A minus for me as well.
All right. Well,
yeah, I felt maybe they could have beefed up the offensive line a bit more, but other than that, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, but I think the Giants added two starters on the offensive line in free agency. So I think.
Oh, right. That's right.
Okay, so. All right. Well,
and PFF's most improved units of the Eagles secondary, 2 starters drafted in the first 40 picks there. The Steelers offensive line, 2 picks added there. The Rams defensive line, the first 2 picks added there. The Cowboys offensive line, I think, is better now than it was at the start of free agency.
right.
The Falcons defensive line got some love. The Carolina Panthers, I think, improved at the tight end position. Let me see who they took. Carolina selected Tavion Sanders with their 4th round pick. So he might be the Panthers' week 1 starter at the tight end position if Tommy Tremble does not have a good training camp or a good off season.
Well, sounds like
so that's that.
Yeah, very interesting names right there. So So it's going to be very interesting to see how these players do because OTAs are starting up pretty soon.
Yep, a couple of weeks. So we'll definitely. So, but I do think the one I'm most interested in hearing from is the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. So
Oh
that
yes, oh yes.
it that's going to be the big injury story of the OTAs, Aaron Rodgers' health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very good to see how Aaron Rodgers does. I'll be keeping my eye on that because if he does as good as they can be, the Jets could be a dark horse playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that division is controlled by Buffalo, but Miami is all right. So keep them on that. So I guess we're pretty much done for the night.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and also the Mavs won, so they're moving on.
Oh yes, yes. My Mavericks, keeping up with them. They won 114 to 101. So the Mavericks move on in the Western Conference, going on to the second round. Uh, don't know who they're going to be playing yet.
OKC.
Oh yeah, OKC, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's about a little more than 4 minutes left in the third period, and the Knights have a 1-0 lead over the Stars. So we might be going to sudden death game 7 in Dallas on Sunday.
Yeah, my pick before that series was Dallas in 7.
Yeah, I know that Dallas that Las Vegas team always plays Dallas very hard. Always.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
well, anyway, I guess that's going to do it for our show. Remember, this coming week, maybe NFL schedule release. So we may have a show next Thursday night, which is the 9th.
Yep, maybe. Well,
maybe. Fingers
crossed. As I said, if the trend continues, they're expected to release the schedule to either the second Wednesday or the second Thursday of May.
Well, we'll just take a look. So we'll be might be here 6 nights from now, talking about the NFL schedule.
Yeah, the race will be broadcast on ESPN too.
Yeah, from a fantasy perspective.
Oh yes, definitely. And of course, be on the lookout for Hooked on Sports with John Flynn.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Look him up on your podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Look him up.
Yeah.
I listened to that. I listened to his draft preview a couple of weeks ago. Excellent.
Thank you.
And I'll be looking for your next episode pretty soon.
Yeah.
And as John Flynn said, he'll reactivate our fantasy league sometime in
probably by the next show.
Yeah,
by the next show.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can then you can make the formal announcement once I do that.
All right. Oh, wait a minute. I almost forgot something. We still have a viewer poll going on right now. So still have the poll of the two logos that I came up with. That one of them is going to be our new logo. We'll start using it on the night of our draft, which is August 30th, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. I think
that's more than likely, as long as nothing comes up between our schedules and stuff like that.
Right. So Flynn, you still have those?
I will pull it up on Messenger now. Give me a minute.
Yeah, we put up the schedule. We did this on our last show. We showed our two logos, and we're going to let you people decide which logo is the better one. And we will use that starting on our league draft night episode on August 30th. I didn't think it left open.
Hang on.
Okay. But anyway, I guess while Flynn is looking up the information that we need.
Hello? You play to win the game.
I just had to throw something in there. All right, now, what you seen right there was the first logo I came up with. I kind of like it, and then this is the second logo. So we have the first logo, and then we have this one, the second logo. So we want to let you people know. We want to know what logo you like better. And as I said, the one that has the more votes will be the one that we'll use for this season. And we will start using it for our starting this coming season when our league draft happens on August 30th. So,
Yep.
So there you go. Please make your comments in the comment section down below. Let us know how your teams did in the draft. What grades you give them. Good, bad. Just let us know. Give us your opinion. And do spread the word about this show. I don't think I've said this before, but if you like this show, we have some viewers here. Please hit the red subscribe button. Hit the bell when you know when a new episode will be coming your way. Like I said, might be next Thursday night or next Friday night, depending on when they release the schedule. So spread the word about us. Spread the word about Hooked on Sports. And I guess that's it.
Yep.
All righty then. So we're going to wish everybody a good night now. So for John Flynn, for John Natale, my name is Tim McClellan. Thank y'all so much for joining us. See you next week with our schedule release reactions. Till then, thank you so much for watching. God bless you. And as always, be a good sport. See y'all.